Welcome to the Punting is Winning podcast. Just two fans talking all things Hawkeyes. Here are your hosts, JD and Keith.
Welcome back, Hawkeye fans, to Punting is Winning, the All Iowa podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Keith, that's JD. Fun show wrapped up for you today. We'll talk a little women's hoops, talk some men's hoops, go on a little bit of a topic of discussion that has been going around this week, wrap up with a new question of the week, and call it a night. Let's start off with a question of the week from last week. Last week we asked, going into Monday night's game with Ohio State, the Iowa men's basketball team had played
170 games
against Ohio State. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
What is the overall record in those games for those teams head to head? And in true typical fashion, we ask a question, and 5 minutes into the game, it usually gets answered on a graphic on the screen, which happened this time too. They showed it was 85-85 in the 170 games going into that game. So as of right now, Ohio State has a 1-game lead on Iowa overall head-to-head, which, based on the way that game went, they should have about a 3-game lead on them.
Yeah, but we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, so. Well, let's talk about the other team that played 2 games this week and had a big one this week. So let's start out with earlier in the week, we had the women taking on Northwestern.
Northwestern.
Can you get a breakdown of that?
I do. That was a Tuesday night game on the 28th of January, and it was an 85-80 win for the Hawkeyes. Iowa was faced by Anna Stolke's 26 points, 6 rebounds, followed closely by Lucy Olsen's 16 points and 6 assists. Iowa shot 48% from the field, 41% from the three-point line, 90% from the free throw line. And, you know, there's been some games when Iowa has lost the game at the free throw line, but this is one of those that they wanted at the free throw line. Mm-hmm. They shot 90%. Northwestern just would not go away. Northwestern coming in 0-7 in the conference.
But, you know, 6 of those losses have been by, 6 points or less?
Yeah, and you know, I saw a stat coming into the game. They were talking about Northwestern's woes for shooting the three-pointer. They said they were shooting it as a team 28%. And they shot over 60% against Iowa. I think they were 9 of 14.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
It was like 68% or something. It was ridiculous. They just wouldn't miss. And of course, those are the kind of games, you know, you feel like that always happens at Iowa. But, you know, winning that game was important to the season. But, you know, winning it felt more to me like they just survived it.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it felt like. Just let's get this thing over with. We know we're a better team. We're at home. You know, just let's put these guys away. And they just never did put them away. It was close all the way to the end. I know they had like a 9 or 10 point lead, but then bang, you know, they hit a couple of threes and it's right back to close game again. And, you know, and Iowa was able to, as I said before, seal it at the free throw line and you know, get away from there with a win. And hopefully we don't see Northwestern again because, wow, I wouldn't want to play them twice.
I don't know that Northwestern would shoot like that again.
No, probably not.
In any game this year. I mean, it's for some reason, the law of averages always catches up with Iowa.
Seems to.
Everybody has the worst shooting nights of their lives until they play us. And it happens both sport, you know, men's and women's.
Exactly.
The men's is more explainable because of the lack of defense that they play. But
yeah, I thought Iowa at times during this game, I thought their defense was a little bit lax. I think they, I don't know, mentality wise, maybe they came into the game thinking that Northwestern 0-7, 11-7 overall. You know, this is probably going to be all we have to do is just play good enough and we'll win. Well, you know, everybody knows in the Big Ten, anybody can beat anybody on any given night. And if you don't put your full effort in and focus has to be completely 100% on what you're doing, you're going to lose.
You know, but you think about it, they had a big game today, so they were looking forward to that. Today was a big day for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty easy to look past an 0-7 team looking forward to the number 4 team in the country. So I get the struggle. Maybe it was more of a, like you said, we survived. We did what we were supposed to do. We won the game. Wasn't pretty, but it was a win, and it was, it could have been a lot worse. Could have been a loss.
Yeah.
A loss would have just been devastating.
Oh.
So in the eyes of committees, whatever, they don't really look at that as, oh well, you only won by 5. You won. So
yeah.
It's better to win by 5 than lose by 1.
Yeah, as long as it goes in that left-hand column under the W, we're good. Yeah. But you're at this point when you're a 4-6 team in the conference, you're walking a razor-thin edge on that, going to the tournament or not going to the tournament, and you really need to have, a signature win, but you can't afford to lose games when you're favored at home.
Right.
And those are the kind of things that knocks you right out of the tournament. But segueing into today's game with University of Southern California, those are the kind of games, if you win it, that puts you firmly on, maybe on the right side of this thing and not the wrong side of it. But you have to continue to play and win the games that you are likely favored in.
Mm-hmm.
And try not to, and try to steal one every once in a while. Like today, I don't think today, Iowa at one point, I think, was a 15-point dog. I know earlier in the week it was only 8, but then I think as the betting went through, it climbed to 14 or 15. And it is crazy. But USC had won 18 straight or 14 straight, whatever it was.
15, I think, yeah.
15. And they didn't seem like there was any way they were going to get out of Iowa City without a win. Just by the way they had been playing and by the way Iowa had been playing, losing to teams like Illinois, which they shouldn't have lost to, and, having double-digit leads on Nebraska and Indiana and losing those games. It's just one of those things where you just didn't see this coming. And we'll get into it.
But on the Illinois thing, I think Illinois actually, did they beat Maryland today or was it Michigan State? They beat a ranked team today.
I didn't see that.
So,
but,
it's again, it was a 1-point game, but Illinois is no slouch. They're just not.
Well, that just makes my point that you can't take anybody off, and you have to get focused with everyone. You can't jump ahead and look ahead. You have to stay focused on the next opponent and take care of business.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're gonna find yourself on the other side looking into the tournament and sitting at home watching. But today, Caitlin Clark Day, when they retired Caitlin Clark's jersey, which was a fantastic ceremony at the end. It was nice to see that. Iowa came in with dignitaries in the crowd, with recruits in the crowd, a jacked up crowd. Big time recruits, big time. Yeah.
Some of the best players in the country in the next 2 or 3 years.
And why wouldn't you want to come to this game? This is one that, it's Iowa, USC. It's Caitlin Clark Day. It's going to be a jam-packed crowd, going to be a raucous crowd. And it was all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And Iowa came in. I thought they played the best defensive half.
Defensive
10 minutes. Quarter. The best defensive quarter that they played all year, and it's not even close.
In several years.
Yeah, you're probably right, several years. But they set the tone early. Iowa was up, I think, at one point. Was it 19 to 1?
18 to 1.
18 to 1. And then I know at one point they were up 23 to 4.
Yes.
Because they were up 19. And then the second quarter came in, and Iowa just couldn't do anything offensively. They still had a pretty good defensive showing, but not really as well as they did in the first. They had some costly turnovers, especially towards the end of the first. The last.
USC took a page right out of Tennessee's playbook and just started full court pressing, and Iowa couldn't handle it.
Yeah, they had trouble with it for sure.
In the first half. Second half was a little better.
Second half, I think they because I know that Jan said in the press conference after the game that they had been working on breaking the press, and they knew that apparently the middle person is either too far back, when they're trying to get the ball up the court. But when she moved forward, it seemed like it got a little bit easier for them to get across because it was, inbounds and then back to the person that inbounds it to the middle and then to the sides, and they were able to break the press every time. Well, not every time, but most every time. That's where the majority of their turnovers, and we'll get to the turnovers here in a minute, that's where the majority of their turnovers came from, it's that press. It wasn't in the half-court offense. They did fairly well with their half-court offense, I thought, from a turnover standpoint.
I'd say from a turnover standpoint, they probably maybe 5, 6 of their total turnovers came from the half-court sets.
Yeah, and I wouldn't call today's turnover amount high compared to what they have at pass. It's not like the Tennessee game where they had, what was it,
22?
29, 30. Yeah, it was terrible. But today I believe that they only had
16 or 18 maybe.
I thought it was 15. Anyway, so I didn't write that down. I don't know why. Unless I did just not seeing it. Yeah, no, 15 turnovers. So they did have 15 turnovers today, which is not, a lot compared to what they could, especially from, with USC's press in the second quarter, especially. But, you're up big in the first quarter. You think, oh, this is going to be fun. And then you turn around and you're down a point at the half. And, you're kind of thinking to yourself, this second half may not be very good. And I was held with them. And, I think at one point I saw USC was up. I think they had any more than a 5-point lead.
I think they had a 7-point lead.
Oh, they have a 7-point lead. Okay.
47-40, I believe.
And then next thing you know, Iowa was up, 2, 4, and then they were up 8. And I think the most they were up at any point in the fourth quarter was they were up 10, I think. And then they held it at 9, 8, and 7 most of the time and ended up winning 76-69. What can you say about, early on it was Hannah Stolke and Taylor McCabe keeping Iowa in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Taylor hit the three-pointers. Hannah was very instrumental down in the post, making shots and putting pressure on, drawing fouls. I thought you can't underestimate her contribution to this thing. But in the second half, when Hannah started to get into foul trouble and was benched, she only played 20 minutes. That's half the game.
Well, she came out at about the 4.5-minute mark of the third quarter, and I don't think she played in the fourth quarter at all.
Did not get back in. Nope, did not get back in. And then, at that point, you kind of rely on your senior transfer, and Lucy Olson took a game over. Her and Addie O'Grady.
Addie O'Grady, yep.
Addie O'Grady was hitting those little free throw line corner jumpers. The elbow jumpers, and was making them right and left, wasn't missing. I think she missed one. But, that was when she needed to make those shots, she did actually make the shots. And it kind of helped. It put a lot of pressure on USC to have to come down, and they had to be, as the game wore on, they had to be better and better and better, and they didn't answer the bell. So, Iowa played good enough defense in the third and fourth quarters to really keep this game as close. And once you keep a game close with a team, anything can happen. And being at home was such an instrumental part of winning this game, because I don't think with that home crowd, as loud as they were, I think it disrupted USC. I don't think they'd seen a crowd like this all season in any stadium or arena that they'd been in. And, we're getting a reputation, Carver, especially for the women's team. I'd say only for the women's team, is getting to have a reputation as a very difficult place to play for the women. And that might be, partly because of the crowd, but mostly because of the team.
Yeah.
Iowa typically puts a decent team out, and they're going to put pressure on you. They're going to play good defense under Jan, for sure. We know that this year. I don't know what more you can say about this game other than it was absolutely, I don't want to say imperative, because I don't think you can base your entire season on one game. But winning this game does more for you than probably anything you've done all year.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. If Iowa had put the effort in every game like they did today, especially on the defensive side, they'd probably be undefeated.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have any losses in the Big Ten. There would be no teams that they've lost to in the Big Ten that would have beaten them with an effort like they had today.
Yeah, it's too bad they couldn't be more consistent
Yeah.
that way. But I understand that, the players that play haven't gotten a lot of experience. A lot of the starters from last year were gone. I mean, Sydney Falter came in late last year for Molly Davis when she got injured. So she started a few games. But really, did she start from earlier on? And no, she hadn't.
No.
So this is really her first year. Plus, then she had that knee injury where they scoped her knee, and she was a little bit slow getting into the season. So I don't know. The future's bright. I think if we can keep getting the freshmen out there and getting them playing time, it's only going to pay dividends down the line for the future. We'll go into the stats real quick. Here, I'll just run through them real fast. Iowa shot 45% from the field, 28% from three, so not a good night shooting threes. 75% from the line, they were 21 of 28. Iowa was out-rebounded 33-29, but they had 15 turnovers, as we talked about. Just fantastic game. Fantastic overall, and just environment was fantastic. And I was not expecting this to happen. I kind of thought the way Iowa was playing, the way USC was playing, I kind of thought, if we can keep it to within 10, I think you can kind of hang your hat on that. I think that would be okay. But to come out and win by 7, yeah, I totally didn't see that coming.
Yeah. Yeah, and the mystique of Caitlin Clark in the crowd, I think, had a lot to do with that too. And you get a little more amped up, and I think that helped him a lot more. It's just, you don't want to lose on her day.
Right.
No matter who you're playing, you don't want to lose. You don't want to be that team that said, well, they retired Caitlin Clark's jersey, but we lost that game. You want to go back and say, that was a heck of a day. We retired her jersey. Was nobody will ever wear 22 again, and by God, we beat the number 4 ranked team in the country in a fantastic game.
Yeah.
And so I think that's pumps you up a little bit more and gives you a little bit more motivation. And I think you could see that they were very pumped up in the first 10 minutes, and I think they lost that edge. But again, part of that's, you knew that you weren't just going to walk away with a 20, 30 point win against the number 4 ranked team, period.
No.
You knew they were going to come back.
Yeah.
And, I hate to say it, you knew that the Golden Girl was not going to be held in check. They were going to find a way to make sure she got her points. I mean, there was a lot of times where she went to the line for some shots that, to make sure she got her points. I'm like, there wasn't even a foul there. But that's neither here nor there.
I'm not going to take anything away from Juju Watkins. She's a good player, and all the accolades that she gets are deserved.
She was 8 of 22 shooting, though. Let's just keep that in mind.
I mean, that's a lot of shots, but by the same token, she's kind of their go-to player, like Caitlin was for Iowa last year. But I have something I was going to tell you. I don't know if you remember that or know this or not, but last year's top 3 scorers were all in the house.
Yep.
Did you know that? Caitlin, Juju, and Lacey Olson.
Yep.
Yeah. Last year's top 3 scorers all in the house at the same time. Thought that was kind of interesting. Yeah. Iowa's now 15-7. They are 5-6 in the conference, and they travel to Minnesota on Thursday, which is a big game.
Mm-hmm. Minnesota just got beat by UCLA today.
Yeah, but they played them fairly decent.
Yeah.
Compared, because UCLA is
I think it was a 14. Good. Last time I looked, there was about 4.5 minutes to go, and it's a 14-point game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think UCLA is going to lose a game in the conference this year. I really don't, just probably based on what I've seen. But yeah, go. I thought it was a perfect ending to a perfect day, and retiring the jersey. I'm not sure. Did you get to watch the jersey retirement segment after? That was kind of nice. That was it. Fox stayed on and allowed the people that wanted to watch that. So kudos to Fox for that and keeping with the coverage. I know a lot of people in the state of Iowa wanted to see that, and that was fun, and I enjoyed it. Hopefully Iowa can continue to take that momentum that they built up today and carry it through to Minnesota and on down the line.
Yeah, understand that there's a lot of road in front of them that they can keep playing the way they're playing. They got a long way they can go.
Yes. There isn't a single game on their schedule, except maybe one, that I don't think that they can't win. And potentially, if they pull off the miracle there.
It is at home.
It is at home, but I think UCLA is just head and shoulders above everybody this year. Them and South Carolina.
Yeah. And that's South Carolina's only loss was to UCLA.
So, I think you take those two teams and you can. I would, if I was a betting man, I would probably put those two in the finals right now. But
yeah,
obviously they play the rest of the season, and you never know what's going to happen. Somebody could get injured, somebody could get kicked out of a game for something, and it changes the whole dynamic of the game, and who knows what could happen. So that's why they play the games. They don't play them on paper; they play them on the court.
Yeah, because on paper, Iowa should have lost today.
Absolutely should have lost today, based on everything that had gone on up to this point.
As the ESPN analyst would say, the eye test.
Yeah. I thought the analysts did a good job today. I didn't feel like they were one-sided. I thought they were pretty even keel. I know a lot of people would say different, but I thought they did good. I thought they did a good job.
It was a Fox broadcasting crew, it wasn't an ESPN crew. So
that's true.
That makes a big difference too, because Fox, it's more of the contract with the Big Ten is there, so you're going to be. Yeah, I get it. They're both Big Ten teams, and you could be biased one way or the other. But Jason Benetti.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have to tell him on.
Yeah.
You know how it is at the parents' house.
Yeah, I know. Jason Benetti, actually, I really like him, believe it or not.
Yeah, I do too.
Even though he's the baseball announcer for, I believe, the White Sox, if I'm not mistaken. Or he was. I thought he was still.
I thought it was the White Sox or the Red Sox?
No, I think it's the White Sox. He's a Chicago guy. But anyway, yeah, I think he did a good job, and his cohort there did a good job, and I couldn't fault anything that they did or said today, as far as I'm concerned. I thought the refereeing was a little bit, I don't know, they called it both ways, but I thought it was just a little bit suspect at times. But
no, they were definitely favoring one person, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, but you can't be too upset when you win the game by 7 points when you're not.
Yeah, really. And I would say, because you could tell there was there's a reason why they don't like to call fouls on her, because they don't want to get her out of the game, blah, 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 blah. But in the same sense, that was not, Caitlin didn't have that favorable of a whistle at times. And I think because she had that, get out of my face mentality, which she's not going to take any guff, which I think is great. I just felt like there was a lot of times she pulled into somebody, and what should have been an offensive foul was called a defensive foul, or was a play on, because we can't. I think she ended up with 2 fouls, and they came in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I think they both came in late in the game.
Yeah, so come on, she played virtually 40 minutes, and I think she did play all 40 minutes, didn't she?
She did play all 40 minutes.
And you only committed 2 fouls, and you're the focal point of the team. I don't buy that, but anyway. I'm not going to complain on a 7-point win.
No. So, yeah, all good things today. Very happy, excited for the team going forward. Can't say anything that I would regret. So it's all good. All the players played their role. They did their thing, and we're excited to get out of that game with a win.
Yep. Now let's talk about the one that is a little more disappointing.
Yeah.
Well, a lot more disappointing, let's say.
Yeah, I was going to say that one's. Some of this is a little bit head scratching, because I don't know how they can beat a team like Indiana by 26 points or 25 points and then turn around and just play so lousy against Ohio State. I know it's a road game, and I know it's hard to win on the road, but Iowa played Monday night right after we did our podcast, and was not good. Was not a good game at all. They lost 82-65. They were only down 4 at the half, and it just kind of fell apart. But Iowa was led by Drew Thelwell's 20 points. Owen Freeman's 8 rebounds, and Josh Dix did have 3 assists, although he had no points for how many games in a row now. Iowa shot 39% from the field, 28% from the 3-point line, 59% from the free throw line. So it was a very poor shooting night.
Yeah.
However,
I'm sure they were out rebounded them.
Oh no, they were well out.
I'm sure they got.
they were out rebounded 42-28.
I was going to say,
No, they
pretty
were
sure that happened.
Yeah. However, they only had 6 turnovers, so they did take care of the ball. They just couldn't shoot it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the old adage of couldn't hit water if they fell out of the boat in the middle of the ocean.
Well, when you have 2 starters that don't score, that's a problem. Because Josh Harding and Josh Dix.
Josh Dix and Brock Harding.
Josh Dix and Brock Harding, I'm sorry. Dix was 0 for 7 shooting. Harding only took 3 shots, missed all 3. I mean, I guess, what can you say that hasn't already been said? They're very inconsistent. I think that their coach is not being fiery enough for them. I don't know if you know this or not, and I heard this from a pretty decent source, that at one point in the game, and I didn't see this, but he said it was true, that over Twitter or X, that Owen Freeman's dad put out a tweet, and it was very derogatory about how McCaffrey was using his boy. And then it was deleted about 3 minutes later. So, there might be a little bit of dissension in the team and how McCaffrey is running the team as far as substituting and putting players in and that kind of thing. So I don't know if he's lost the team at this point. I kind of wonder if he hasn't. I mean, you go through the motions, obviously, and you play the games, but if you're not mentally into the game and you feel like you've checked out, you're going to lose games like this, and you're going to lose them bad. And I think the rest of the season is going to tell a big tale as to how this team does going forward. Is going to be whether or not he can say that he lost the team or he still has the team. And, I don't know that this week's game with Purdue at home is going to be a tale for that, because I don't think that's going to be a game, even if he did have the team and had everybody 100% dialed in, that you're probably not going to have that. You're not, just based on talent level.
No,
I don't know that Iowa. Today, though. I agree, I guess, but I think you're looking at 2 different dynamics too. I think you're looking at a team that still believes in their ability and still believes in their chances. And then you're looking at another team that I think has checked out.
Well, here's an observation that I had. And I don't know if this is so much, it's obviously on the coaches, but the players need to understand it as well. The biggest problem Iowa has is when they can't shoot the ball to save their lives, they're sunk. I mean, they are just out. They're going to get boat raced. Why not understand it and say, okay, we're not having the best night of shooting. Let's take a little bit more time and run our offense a little bit more. Try to keep this game a little bit closer so that when, because shooting is contagious. You've seen that. When people start getting hot, other people start getting hot. I think what they do is they get so on the other end of that spectrum of they rush shots so much when things aren't falling that they're giving up a possession with a rush shot that goes down, and a long rebound off of a 3 kicks out to a fast break to the other end, and there's 2 points, and you've used 8 seconds off the game clock, and there's 2 possessions right there where you could have used 20 seconds, 25 seconds off the clock, try to get a better shot instead of something rushed. And okay, well now, I used most of the shot clock, and I get it, it doesn't fit Iowa's style of run and gun, but you can still run and gun. And understand, when you're hitting shots, do it. When you're not hitting shots, slow it down a little bit. Take your time, run a little bit of the offense. But that's the thing of it is I've noticed is I don't know how much offense they really run.
Yeah, I don't know. That's Iowa's one of the quickest shooting teams in all the NCAA. I mean, they've got to it seems like they have to jack up a shot every 10 seconds. It's like if you get 25 seconds into it or 22 seconds into the shot clock, I mean, that's a rarity to see that at Iowa's end.
15 seconds into the shot clock is pretty rare.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, what you're doing at that point is if you're, especially like you said, you're not having a good shooting night, you're just giving the other team more and more and more and more opportunity to score on you. I agree with you. I think that, if you're having an off night, and you'll have an off, or know you're having an off night pretty early on. If you're not hitting the threes and they're clanking and you're like 3 for your first 13 or 1 for your first 10, it's a bad shooting night. Let's slow this thing down. Let's limit the other team's opportunities.
Yeah, because
maybe eventually get fire eventually.
The shooting is going to pick back up at some point, maybe. You've seen it in games where Iowa has fallen down like 19, 20 points, and then you look up, your first instinct is, boy, this game is over. You want to turn it off. Next thing you know, you look away for 10 minutes, you look back up, they're down by 7. Well, you just cut 13 points out of that in about 2.5 game minutes. Okay, now think if you hadn't been taking rush shots, would you have been down by 20? That 13 points that you now you're starting to hit your shots and you're able to pick the pace up and get more possessions. Now, are you maybe up by 3 or maybe just down by a point instead of still being down by 10? That's the thing that that just bugs me so much about it. And again, I don't know if it's so much that they don't recognize it, or it's that in a motion offense, there really is no sets within that motion offense. Everybody just kind of goes and, well, I'm not open right now. I'm going to go set a screen to get somebody open, and then I'm going to roll off of that, and that's what we're supposed to have. That's our motion offense. Well, that's really, it's a set play, but it's not a set play because everybody's kind of frenetic with it. Set plays are when you draw something up. You set this screen. You're going to come up and set this screen. This guy's going to roll off, set this screen. That's going to have this guy over in the corner wide open. That's a set play. They don't do any of that, really.
Right.
And from what I see they look for a lot of opportunities where somebody will camp out in a corner and hope that a dribble drive and a kick out will keep them open. But I don't see them doing a lot of the screening to get those guys to that point. Now, I'm not saying I don't ever see it, because that one the other night where I think there was a double screen to get Price Sanford open in the corner for a shot was a thing of beauty. But that doesn't happen all that often. And again, you can understand, you played basketball for, you're at this level of basketball. You've played it most of your life. Like you said, when you're having a bad shooting night.
Yeah.
And you go back to your coach and you say, Coach, my shot's not falling. We should slow things down a little bit. Step up, be a leader. Say, we need to slow things down. We need to stop taking shots within the first 8 seconds of the shot clock. And maybe let's run it and take it in the first 18 seconds. Take 10 more seconds off, limiting possessions to the other team so that they don't have the ability to just incrementally mount up that advantage they have on you. Down by 4 at half. What do? We go out in the second half. First 4 minutes of the second half. Next thing you know, we're down by 17.
Yeah.
Because we're not hitting shots and we're jacking up things early in the shot clock. And all they're doing is if you're not a rebounding team, you're just giving them, why don't you just hand them the ball and say, go down and make a layup? And that's exactly what we're seeing. And it's frustrating to watch.
It is frustrating to watch. So next game is tomorrow night. No, Tuesday night.
Yes,
Tuesday night on February 4th against Purdue. It is a home game. Purdue is 17-5 and 9-2 in the conference and rated number 10 in the nation. We're going to see, hopefully we don't see an apathetic crowd of a meager amount of maybe 5,000 or less. If you see that with a team that's come in number 10 rated, high up in the standings in the conference, and you see an apathetic crowd that sits on their hands, there's open seats to everywhere in the stadium or in the arena. What are you going to do at that point? I mean, I think at that point you have to make a decision. Maybe not the decision to affect the rest of the season, but maybe at the end of the season you have to make a decision.
Well, yeah, Beth Getz has to look around and say, and I don't mean this disparaging to women in general or anything like that, but men's sports have dominated the scene for years and years and years. And when you look around and you are taking a backseat to your women's basketball team, and by a huge margin,
yes, then
something's got to change, which I think that leads us into something you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I do want to talk about, if anybody's been cruising these Hawkeye pages this week, especially like Hawkeye Heaven and some of the other pages talking Iowa Hawkeye sports, you've probably seen the social media post about if Iowa would happen to move on from Fran McCaffery at the end of the year, whether they buy him out, whether he retires, leaves, quits, whatever the case may be, people are reporting that there are 3 names that could be possible replacements for Fran. And I want to go through those names, and I want to say whether it makes sense to Iowa, whether it makes sense to the coach, that kind of thing. So the first one is Darren DeVries. Right now, he's the head coach at Virginia. He's been there 1 year. West Virginia. He's been there basically this season is his first season. Currently, they're on a 3-game loser. They're 4-5 in the conference and 13-7 overall. Now, Darren is an Iowa guy. He coached Drake. His son Tucker is now with him in West Virginia, but he is injured and is going to seek a redshirt season for this season. So he would have eligibility if Iowa would somehow figure out a way to lure him from West Virginia. Now, does this make sense for Darren to leave his first year at West Virginia? Would he be able to get out of his contract? Would he ask that Iowa help pay the penalty for breaking his contract? Would Iowa be able to pay enough to get him back to Iowa? These are all questions. Now, does it make sense for Iowa? Not if they have to pay off McCaffery and pay the contract at West Virginia to get him to break it, to be the coach, and then also pay him for the season. With that in mind, I think the likelihood of him being an Iowa coach next season is about 10%. That's my estimation. That's my opinion. He's 49 years old. I just don't see it. The next name on the list is the current Drake head coach, Ben McCollum. Drake is 20-2 and 10-2 in the conference. They have a 8-game winning streak. They've beaten several Power 4 conference teams. Kansas State comes to mind. Kansas State just beat Iowa State by 19 yesterday. He is a former coach at the Division II level at Northwest Missouri State, where he won 4 national championships with them. He is a native of Iowa. He was born in Iowa City, but grew up in Storm Lake, so he's an Iowa guy. That's important. He played his JUCO ball at North Iowa Area Community College, transferred to Northwest Missouri State. He then went on to be a head coach at Northwest Missouri State, again, winning 4 titles, being the 5-time coach of the year. Does this make sense for Ben McCollum? Yes, it does. He can move from the Missouri Valley to the Big Ten Conference. That's a huge step forward. I doubt he's getting the kind of paycheck at Drake that he would get at Iowa. So that would be the ability to lure him. That would be, I think for him, it would be a huge career move. Now, is this a good move for Iowa? Yes and no. Yes, in the respect that he's a proven winner. He would potentially come in with a lower price tag. No, because he hasn't coached and recruited at the Power 4 level yet. In my estimation, I think the chances of Ben McCollum coming to Iowa are about 40%. The next name, and the one that I have been saying for a while now that I would like to see come to Iowa, and after I did my research, I feel like it's much less of a possibility than what I think it was prior to me actually doing the research. And that name is Chris Collins. He is the current head coach at Northwestern. He has been there since 2013. In his 11 seasons, he's guided the team to their only NCAA appearances. He is a proven winner, but he's in contract to the 2028 season. So he's going to be and has been signed to a longer-term contract. He was the Big Ten Coach of the Year in 2023. Did you know he was recruited to come to Iowa back in the day, and he ended up going to Duke, which I'm sure was probably good for him.
Oh, yeah.
He eventually found his way as an assistant coach under Coach K at Duke. He then was hired by Northwestern in 2013 after Bill Carmody was fired. Does this make sense for Chris? Probably not. But if there's an Iowa interest, I'm sure he'd listen to it. But his contract is probably long enough that it would be very difficult for him to get out of it without a pretty substantial amount of cash being involved. And I'm not sure with his contract if there's if he can break it with certain jobs, that kind of thing. I don't know that particular part of it. But the only negative is the contract, like I said. And if I would offer enough money to make it worth it for Chris to break the contract, I'm not sure that they could. He is a proven winner, and he does it make sense for Iowa? Probably not. Not with the price tag. You kind of want to see somebody that is, although he's young, he's only, I think, is he 48 or 49? But, I don't know. I think the chance of him coming to Iowa are like maybe 20%. So I think of those three, your best bet would probably be Ben McCollum. But I've also went ahead and did, I brought three other names up that nobody's talking about. Now, they may start talking about them after this. I don't know. I doubt it. First one, and it's an Iowa tie. Potentially, you could maybe lure Greg McDermott over from Creighton. He is an Iowa native. He's been successful at ISU, Creighton, and Northern Iowa. He is the Big East Coach of the Year in 2020. I think it's worth a call. I don't know what his contract is with Creighton. He is 60 years old, so he's getting up there a little bit. I don't know that I really think this would be a great hire. I think he's young enough, 60. He's got some years left, and I think he's energetic enough. He's a proven winner at Creighton. And I don't see why you wouldn't at least give him an opportunity to say no. Yeah. Chances of him coming to Iowa are very slim. The next one on my list is Russell Turner. Russell Turner is the head coach at UC Irvine, and he's been there since 2010. He's 54 years old. He has 7 Big West championships, 2 Big West tournament championships. He's been the 4-time Big West Coach of the Year. His current team is 20-3 and 10-1 in the conference. He was on the staff of Mike Montgomery when he was with Stanford from 2000 to 2004 when Stanford won 2 Pac-10 titles, and the Cardinals were rated number 1 in 2 of those 4 seasons. I thought I had a third name on here, but I guess maybe I didn't. Let me see if I do have a third name on here. I may have turned my page too soon. Oh, yes. The third name is Jared Calhoun. He is the head coach at Utah State, and he is in his first season. He's age 43. I think he would be an opportunity that, you should at least give him a call and gauge interest in him and then maybe work something out. I like him. I like the idea of him. He's young. He's got a good team this year. I think he's coached them well. They beat Iowa already this year, so that tells you something. All of these names, I'm not going to put a percentage on him. I'd like to see this happen. He's kind of my guy right now that I would like to see. Of all the names that I've mentioned, I think him and Russell Turner are your 2 best options because I think they'd be the 2 that would be more apt to be viable. Some of these other guys, I think you might be reaching for the stars a little bit on. But I really like these 2. Like I say, Jared Calhoun and Russell Turner, I think are 2 guys that Beth needs to have on her list. And I know that she's probably got her own list, and I know that there's probably coaches out there that I'm not thinking about that may already have an interest in Iowa. And I'm sure that she's probably already in her heart of hearts already kind of has an idea which way she wants to go. But one of the things that she needs to do, since she's hired only Jan Jensen, and that was kind of a slam dunk hire, she didn't really have to do anything for that one. Because I think that she needs to make a splash with this. I think she really needs to get a high energy guy, a young guy that's hungry, or she needs to get a very well-established older guy that has a very good winning lineage. So she needs to make a pretty big splash hire here.
It needs to be somebody that can recruit.
And absolutely, a recruiter.
Charismatic and recruiter.
Yes.
I'm not talking a PJ Fleck snake oil salesman type of recruiter, but somebody who is highly energetic, who can bring enthusiasm. What Fran did when he first got here. What was the slogan when Fran got here? Let's be mad again.
Yeah.
Go on March Madness. Let's be mad again. And we're mad again, just not in the right way.
Just not in the right way. I just, for Beth, I think this hire has to be one that has to be 100% her. I think it has to be one that she's 100% behind. Because if she makes a bad hire, she's going to lose the fan base. And they're going to say that she's not capable of doing her job. So, she has to have a no-nonsense, get-it-done approach and bring in a really respected guy that can recruit, can play defense, can teach defense, and can coach. I mean, really coach. And I think if she does that, she will gain the favor of the crowds. I think they'll start coming back to the men's teams. You're going to start seeing packed Carver Hawkeye Arena again. You're going to see people not sitting on their hands. They're going to be yelling and clapping and screaming. And I think you're going to get that excitement back. And I think that is 100% what this program has to have. They can't have a ho-hum hire. They've got to go out and get a really a good quality guy. It doesn't have to be a guy that's the huge name, but he's got to be hungry and he's got to get out there and he's got to be able to do all the things that we just outlined. Recruit, coach defense, all aspects of the game, and be a likable person and a decent guy. And I think because that's the way Iowa people are, is that, there's always this Iowa nice you hear about. I think that's got to be part of it. And I mentioned some Iowa guys on here, but I'm not necessarily saying that Beth has to go out and get an Iowa guy. Just bring in somebody that's going to be good for the program. That's all I'm saying.
And I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate.
Okay, go ahead.
I truly don't feel, unless Fran retires, he'll be here next year. That's what it'll be. He'll be here next year because I think she'll give him one more year. I think he's going to convince her because of the recruits he's got coming in that give me one more year. I can turn this around. That's my gut feel. And you can disagree. It's fine.
I do. I don't think he will be.
I think it's the easier solution is to say, well, kind of like what she did with Brian Ferentz. Give you an ultimatum, live up to it or you're gone. I'm going to give you an opportunity to prove it. This is your shot. If you can't prove it to me, if we don't get to this point, if we don't finish top 6 in the conference next year and we don't make it to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament, you're gone. You promised me with these recruits that things will be better. You'll be able to right this ship. If that's not going to happen, out the door. And I think that's what it'll come down to. That's just my own gut feel. I don't feel like I sometimes coaches have built up for in some cases not warranted trust from their AD. I think that's what happens here. I think he's been here long enough that she's going to look at it and say, I don't know that I can get these guys this year, but maybe I can get one of those guys that are on your list next year. Because contracts are a year later. Maybe it's a situation where I can buy out a guy with 2 years left on his contract, but I can't with 3 or 4. That's the other thing. You've got to say, can I let him go without having a plan in place of how I'm going to replace him? Because you could say, oh, well, I'm just going to let him go. And then you hire Todd Licklider Jr. again. Things can get worse. Now, I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen, but nothing's ever a guarantee. Am I saying that this is what I would do? No, I'm just saying this is what I think will happen.
Okay. Well, I just think right now the way the trend is going with the crowds not being there, I think there's apathy in the fan base. That's why people aren't showing up. How can you withstand, Big Ten Network coming in and showing the arena and seeing half full or less? It's a very bad look. And you have to start energizing the fan base for this program, or you're going to lose it for a long period of time. So I think, in my opinion, what you need to do is you need to move on from Fran, and he does have a contract. However, after April 1st, I believe, if it's $6.5 million, it drops to $4 million because that's the end of that year of contract. So it drops. And I believe there's a stipulation in the contract, from what I've been hearing and what I've read, is that you can pay him his remaining contract over the course of a 3-year period. So you could divide up whatever you still owe him and divide it into 3. You don't have to pay him all at once. So that's a good thing. That would help you when it comes to the money, a financial standpoint. And then I think what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to bring in somebody else. I can't see any other way around it at this point. It's just, he doesn't appear, just from the eye test, he does not appear to have the same energy level, the same fire. He doesn't stomp his feet like he did. And not that that's not a good thing. Sometimes you just don't want to do that. But you can just tell that he's not as tuned in, I guess you could say tuned in, as he has been in the past. And so those things, just my eye test tells me that he's biding time, get to the end of the season, and then he's going to go to Indiana and spend the time with his youngest son, who graduates high school in Iowa City this year and has already signed with Butler in Indiana. His other boys out there, his other 2 boys are out there in Indiana. Caitlin Clark's out there in Indiana. Why wouldn't he just go to Indiana? Spend time with your kids. Watch your last kid play basketball in college. You got to see your first 2 play because they played for you, except for Pat this year. And I'm sure he's able to watch the games through some sort of a streaming event or something that he can tape it and go back and watch later. I'm sure he's not missing a minute of it. But yeah, why he's kind of, I think he's lost the fan base here. I just do. I'm ready to move on. And I
don't disagree on that he has lost the fans.
But you can't afford to sit down and let 3,000 and 5,000 people show up to a 15,000 seat arena. Well, 14.9 or whatever it is.
It's kind of,
it looks bad.
Well, it looks bad, but I think it's kind of a wash from what it had been, where, years prior, you'd have had the men gaining 15,000 and the women gaining 5. You just basically, you've turned the tables. You're still probably, your profit margin is probably about the same because of that. Although I don't know that the tickets for the women's game are, well, at this point, they're probably more than the men's. But so you're probably making more money off of that. But still, I don't know. Unless he leaves of his own volition, I think he'll be back another year.
I just don't know.
That's my feel.
I don't know why you wouldn't grasp the opportunity to fill the arena for both when you could potentially fire up a fan base by bringing in someone new and energetic and young and full of fire and full of vim and vigor and ready to get there and just want your players want to run through a brick wall for you. That's what I'm looking for.
Let's throw this caveat out there then. What if she knows this is going to be Kirk Ferentz's last year? Do you really want to go through 2 brand new hires in 1 year? And that's income wise, that's a potential deal breaker, because if you get them wrong, you're gone. You've toasted the university.
I don't agree with that, because I feel like Iowa football fans will show up. They have showed up through the Lauderber years. They showed up through the Burns years, not to the extent that they have now, but they still don't turn their back on Iowa.
But life is different now than it used to be. It's a different generation, and this is a fickle generation that we're living in.
That's true.
This is a generation that will turn on you on a drop of a dime. And I guarantee you make the wrong hire in football, you will see, instead of 69,000 people in the stands, you're going to see 50,000 people. Yeah, that's still a lot of people. You're going to lose people because of it, because of this generation's satisfactory now mentality.
But I guess I don't understand the correlation you're making between making a hire in basketball and making a hire in football. I understand the corporation.
If you're hiring a basketball coach and then you have to hire a football coach within the same calendar year, basically.
Who says you can't make a splash hire them both?
But if you screw it up, if you screw either one of them or both of them up, which is very possible, you've toasted your university.
Well, at that point, that's probably her job at that point.
No,
if she screws this up and makes 2 bad hires, I'm telling you, she's going to be hitting the bricks. That's her job.
I'm just saying, as a fan and looking back at it, I just don't know that, maybe that's not a situation she wants to deal with right away.
I don't know. Iowa's a very resilient fan base, and if they see potential, they will show up to it regardless.
I just think the resilient fan base is the older portion of the fan base, and that's dying off.
Those are the people with money.
Yeah, well, I get that, but the younger ones are the ones that are going to the games now. Even if it's the older ones paying for it, in some cases. If the young ones don't want to go anymore, the older generation isn't going to last forever. You've got to be able to appeal. That's like we've always said with, has the game passed Kirk Ferentz? He's too old for the game. The game has evolved. Fan bases have evolved too. And like I said, it's the generation gaps are bigger than you think, because this generation, I have 2 kids that are in this generation, they'll turn on you. Not saying my kids will turn on me, but I'm just saying that they're more of they want the satisfaction right away. And
this is an instant gratification type situation going on. But
whereas the older fans are more willing to take on like a Kirk Ferentz in 1999 and say, okay, 3 years down the road and he's not got us to a bowl game yet, but we can see improvement. We haven't gotten a winning season yet. Or the third year, it actually did have a winning season, but that's not the mentality of the fans these days. It's, if you do something for us within the next 2 years, we want you gone. And it's a double-edged sword. That's all I'm saying.
So
again, I'm not advocating that I'm thinking he should stay or anything like that. I'm just saying this is how I foresee things.
So let me throw this at you then. So let's say Fran leaves on his own volition this year and says, I'm retiring. I'm going to go see my kids play. She's got to make a hire.
Yeah.
Kirk decides he's going to have one more year, and at the end of the next season, he decides he's done. She's going to have to make 2 hires.
That's out of your hands, though. That's a situation that if a reasonable person can look at it and say, she made some bad hires, but it wasn't because she got rid of somebody that was proven. I'm not saying that Fran's proven because he can't get us out of the first weekend of the tournament when he gets us there.
Like to get to the tournament.
Iowa has, how many times in the last 10 years has Iowa finished in the bottom half of the conference?
In football?
In basketball.
Oh, not a lot.
Yeah.
This year, for sure.
It's Fran's kind of like Kirk. He'll have some good years. He'll have some average years, but he doesn't really have very many really bad years. Now, this might be a really bad year. So far, it is not a really bad year. It is a below average year.
Well, I don't know. My opinion is, and my eyesight tells me that he's checked out, that he is going to leave at the end of the season, whether it be his own volition or whether he's going to be fired. I think it's a foregone conclusion personally.
And see, and I disagree just simply because if he knew he was leaving, I don't think he'd be recruiting like he's recruiting.
Sometimes you just recruit because you put your name out there.
And
sometimes
then,
people come to
speculation, and everything's speculation. It's speculation that she will get rid of him. Speculation that she won't. It's a wait and see. We'll see.
It may be his own situation where he decides to leave on his own, and she doesn't have a choice, but she has to get a new coach anyway. Or she may say, "We're gonna let you go, and we'll pay you over 3 years, whatever it is." But we'll see. We'll see what the rest of the season brings. We'll see how sparse the crowds are. We'll see if maybe down the line it just doesn't force her hand. She just may have to do it just because, she might be getting heat from above. That look at the crowds at the Iowa games, the men's game. The donors may say, we're not going to put any more money because this is a bad product right now.
Yeah.
And she may be forced to do it, whether she wants to do it or not. She may be forced to. Now, I think when you talk about Kirk Ferentz, I think Kirk Ferentz leaves on his own.
Yeah.
I don't think Beth fires him. I don't think Beth is going to have the cojones. I don't think she's got she's got anything that she can go into Kirk's office and say, you need to leave, you're done. She is not going to do that.
No.
He will leave when he leaves. And I don't know that I agree with that 100%, but I, in my heart of hearts, know that's what's going to happen, is he's going to leave when he wants to leave.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. On a lighter note, let's get to the question of the week. And I know you have that good question of the week for this week, and it'll give some people to think about, something to think about.
So, question of the week for this week, going back to the football aspect of things. The Rose Bowl game has been played since 1902. So we're talking, and I think there was a stretch in there for about 15 years where there wasn't a game played, but it's been pretty consistent since about 1917. So 108, 109 years of the Rose Bowl, we'll say. I don't remember exactly what it was. Of the current 18 teams in the Big Ten Conference, what teams have never played in the Rose Bowl game in their entire history of their university? Not what teams, some teams might have played out in the Rose Bowl against UCLA this year that may have never been out there. I'm not using that as a clue or anything because I don't know. I don't remember who all played at UCLA, but it has to be playing in the actual Rose Bowl game. What teams, if any, have never played in the Rose Bowl game that are currently in the 18-team Big Ten Conference?
That's a good question. I like that question. That's one that makes you think.
Yep. And I actually, if I'd have gone off of my gut, would have had it wrong.
Yeah. That's why we do our research.
And we're not giving any hints on this one.
No hints. Yeah. This is one you're going to have to come up with on your own, people. Yep. Otherwise, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Let's hope that it's a long shot, but today was a long shot too. Let's hope that Tuesday's a better outcome, and maybe we have something nice to talk about, and we'll have lit a fire under them that turns our season around. Stranger things have happened. Maybe today's the season turner for Iowa's women's team as well, even though I don't think their season was completely teetering on the brink. It was on the edge, but it wasn't over. I think the men's team right now is they're falling off the edge right now. So anyway, if you like the content that you got here, give us a like, give us a thumbs up, give us a subscribe if you're not already subscribed to us. Leave us a comment, tell us what you like, what you don't like, agree with us on the coaches' situations. Now, we want to hear the banter back and forth. If you think that I'm right and that Beth's not going to force the decision this year and that she's going to give him one more year, throw that in there. If you think I'm crazy for thinking that, okay, again, that's my gut feel on it. I don't necessarily agree with it, but it's my gut feel. Other than that, check us out on Spotify, Twitter. I started doing some YouTube shorts out there, so we got some little short clips on YouTube as well, which seem to be a little bit more of a big hit.
Yeah.
I think we talk about the generation gap, and I think this generation is a little more of quicker snippets, so draws our interest a little bit more. But also, don't forget there is merchandise available. You'll see the QR code popping up throughout the video. It's a very nice looking
quarter zip.
I do like those.
Yeah.
I do have my dry fit, but I do not have it on today. I actually wore it 2 days ago, so it's in the laundry. So
can I get a pencil box?
I'm sure I could probably figure out a way to do that, or a pocket protector, or whatever it was.
Pocket protector. I'd like to have one of those. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. You can put the logos on just about anything. So, but yeah. So like I said, all the proceeds from our sales of merchandise will go to the Swarm to help us get more players. Again, that's not. It's a meager penance for us because we're not getting a lot of sales at this point. But if we do, it's all going back to the university at some point. So. You do like some of the swag, or you like the logo, and you just want to help represent us, love to have you buy something and see you around town with it. So, with that said, let's cross our fingers. And like I said, Tuesday's a daunting task, but so was today, and we pulled that off. So let's hope for a miracle on Tuesday as well.
Absolutely.
Right. say it again one last time. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.